All right, thank you very much for keeping it KBC Channel 1. 11 minutes past the top of the hour, according to my watch. Now, as I talked and I said earlier on, I'll be joined by, and I am actually joined by, Honorable David Ole Sankok, nominated MP for persons with disabilities. He is joining me this morning towards my immediate left. Karibu sana mheshimiwa.
Thank you, sir.
Also known as nominee 001. Towards my extreme left, Honorable Peter Mushiri, the chairman for the National Council of Persons with Disabilities. People call him now Peter Shiri.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
You can engage with us on our Twitter handle, even as we talk about, this. If you look into the laws and policy reforms, as we look into the awareness campaigns, proper data collection and coordination between government agencies handling matters of persons with disabilities. That is the focus this morning. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter at KBC Television. That is our official handle. Tag us at Ram Aguko. You contact them also at Ole Sankok, right? At Peter Muchiri.
Yeah, Peter Shiri.
Peter Shiri.
Yeah.
Nominee 001 pia mwenyewe hapa ndani. Keep the tweets coming in. But let's now get into business.
Yes.
You were there, you're the chairman from 2015 to, you left office in
2014 to
2017.
2017.
You left office in May 14th.
20.
But for 2 years, there was no chairman. Why?
Yeah, I can say this is a failure of the government, and sometimes the government being a bit slower, because they were actually supposed to put somebody in place, the chairman and also the board, immediately after I voluntarily retired from the council, because personally I decided that I should retire from the National Council for Persons with Disability to create an opportunity for another person.
It was your
with
choice?
Yeah, it's my choice. Voluntarily retiring at the age of 38. And that is why I went to Claremont, Kenya, to show where actually disability rights are in Kenya.
How did you manage that?
Yeah, of course I struggle. You know, you'll have used 2 days, but for me I use 6 days. But still I struggle with my crutches, and I had to go on top there and place the flag of National Council for Persons with Disability in Lenapik, because that is where we are as far as disability advocacy is concerned in this country during the Jubilee administration. We have to give credit where it is due. Although then the Jubilee administration delayed in gazetting the chairman of the National Council for Persons with Disability, and I'm happy today is gazetted, but it was 2 years down the lane, which have caused a lot of suffering to persons with disability. There was no oversight to the funds that are allocated to National Council for Persons with Disability, almost 1.8 billion Kenya shillings. That is not chicken change.
Wow. And with that into consideration, persons with disabilities have gone through a lot. Within these 2 years,
They
it's a long
have
period
suffered.
of time.
You have seen now there is no voice. You saw what happened after qualifier of Paralympic from Morocco. You know, they were being global because they had to actually fight for their rights themselves.
And
there was no voice.
We will come into that. Now, as you are now the current chair, and there is one thing that I would like to just start by asking, just generally. What are you looking forward to make in terms of making it different from your predecessor?
Okay, thank you so much. First, I would like my humble gratitude to God Almighty for the opportunity bestowed upon me as the National Chairman for Persons with Disability by His Excellency the President. Secondly, I have actually 3 issues which I want to deal with it as the Chairman of the National Council. One of it is awareness. Awareness for persons with disability, we have a problem, because I remember my boss here, he was my boss because I was a board member at the National Council for Persons with Disability. And we did a lot, because when we came in as a board, we know very well that the National Council for Persons with Disability is not a devolved function. But for us, we decided to actually have 47 counties offices which are managed by disability services officers. This is very important because we felt that our people actually struggle to go and register as a person with disability. So that is one area I would like to deal with it, because up to now, actually, we have not reached where we are supposed to be. But as a country, we actually, as persons with disability, we appreciate our government for what it has done to us. Majority of these African countries, we are number one as a country.
As a country,
Yeah,
Kenya,
Kenya is number one
within
Africa.
Africa.
Within Africa.
Yes, my brother. You know, in disability advocacy in the world, and even in Africa, we are actually number one because there are some firsts that are only found in Kenya.
All right.
For instance, ACPO, access to government procurement opportunity. Go anywhere else in the world. There is nowhere that there is a percentage of government tenders that are set aside specifically for persons with disability. There is nowhere else in the world. Access to government procurement opportunity, duty-free vehicle importation. In Kenya, persons with disability import duty-free vehicles.
Now, this Article 12 of the Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities that reaffirms that every person with disability has a right to equal recognition, whereas as persons before the law, and further it stipulates that state parties shall take appropriate measures to ensure that persons with disabilities on equal basis with others are able to enjoy their legal capacity. Now, how are you implementing this article, and how will the council, now that you are the chair, now that you are the former, you are there now, how will the council create awareness for Kenyans, Kenyan persons with disabilities on how to know their rights?
Okay, first and foremost, I would like to say this: CPRDs and SDGs. These are laws, international laws, and even as a council, we need to align ourselves in this actually for the betterment of our people, and so that a person with disability can understand more better about their right internationally and even locally. My second issue, which I actually, before Honorable Sankok interjected, I was about to say about health.
Okay.
You see, health is a major thing. Like now, the Big Four agenda of His Excellency, the President, is about health. And for a person with disability, we believe when we are working together with relevant actually stakeholders, we shall come to actually agree, and our people can be registered, like for free medical cover for persons with disability. As you understand, our people are vulnerable. Sometimes you ask for our people to go to hospital, they don't have even money to go to that hospital.
But you know, with regards to this article, how are you going to implement it?
Let me come in that one, because that is the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which Kenya ratified in 2008. In 2010, we passed our new constitution, which we aligned to the international instrument, including that particular instrument that you talk about, United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. We had to align it to our constitution, specifically Article 54. 54, 1A, 54, 2A, and B, we align it to it. And that is why in Kenya, Article 54 prescribes that persons with disability should be treated with dignity and respect, and that they are allowed to enjoy all the rights that are enjoyed by other Kenyan citizens, including legal representation. That is why in the National Council for Persons with Disability, there is a legal department that gives pro bono services to all persons with disability that may be having cases in court and may not be able to afford lawyers, to pay lawyers, and so on. So already we have aligned ourselves to that particular article 100%. We are the only country that have ratified it. We were among the first that ratified in Africa, and we are also the first to align it to our constitution, apart from our Person with Disability Act of 2003, which is also in line with this one, which we are now trying to amend to make sure that it also align to the international instrument that we did ratified as a country.
And even as you talk about ratification, you mentioned earlier on about health and trying to help persons with disabilities. Do you have something that is already on the ground, that is already starting?
Okay, as my predecessor say, Mr. Honorable Sankok, actually about health for persons with disability, the government has started. And as per under my leadership, I'll make sure that what has been started by the government actually move forward, because for the betterment of our people. Number two, in my term of leadership, I appreciate Honorable Sankok, actually, he raised the bar too high for me. I didn't know I was the incoming chairman. And I have to pick it that challenge.
But he used to call you chairman.
Yeah, he used to call me chairman, but I was just thinking he was kidding.
Do you think you can be able to reach that bar and even take it a notch higher?
Yeah, because
Of course, this guy is very, very strong, and I know him in the disability advocacy. He will surpass me by far, and I can assure you that. Take my word to the bank, and then after 3 years, evaluate him.
Let's review after 3 years.
After the 3 years, I'm 100% sure.
We will.
He
God will give
but,
us grace
but
and
when
be
it
alive.
comes to
Yes.
this issue of health, what we started in the board and we were together with Honorable Peter Mushiri was to make sure that we, first of all, have sign language interpreters as service providers. You know, doctors and nurses are trained through KISE, Kenya Institute of Special Education, on sign language. Because at times, it is very difficult for you to come as a deaf person, and then you are given an interpreter, somebody that you don't know, so that you can pass information, and confidential information, to another person to pass to the doctor. Now imagine, ambia daktari niko na kisonono. You know, at the end of the day, you know, and these are confidential information. So we have trained service providers in the health sector to make sure that they are mainstream in disability issues. We have also made sure that we are introducing cash transfer to all those NHIF cover, to all those who are in cash transfer program. So that if there is a severely disabled person with disability who is under cash transfer, and you know, severe disability and medical conditions are almost, there is a thin line between them. So we have covered them with NHIF, so that if you go to hospital, they are treated first.
Let me pick it from where Mheshimiwa has left. Actually, about the cash transfer. When we came in 2013, the cash transfer for severe disability, it was 720 million, which actually, under the leadership
380 million.
380 million.
Okay.
But for the last 3 years, the government actually took it to 1.5 billion shillings. So for me, I'll try my best actually to make it to become 3 billion. I understand that the 2,000 shillings is not enough for our people, because majority of these, I'm coming from the grassroots, and I know those problems which are facing our people there. One of these things is about those severe disability children. They need medicine at the end of the day. And when you look at the 2,000 shillings, it's not enough. Yes, the government is giving out this actually safety net money for the severe disability, but 2,000 per month, and this parent want to buy drugs for the kid. So he might end up actually tying that child into a tree so that he can go and look for job.
And you're going to change this.
This is a narrative.
This story will change.
This is one of my key areas which I want to deal with it.
And I wish you the best, even when it comes to dealing with that. Maybe you can put on the uniform that.
No, this is my own branding. This is my own branding. If you want to brand it himself. No, on that issue, that is why actually these kids are on cash transfer as well as they are covered by NHIF. So that when parents take them to hospital, they don't pay, because the 2,000 is not enough for medication. And you know, when you talk of severely disabled, we are talking of cerebral palsy, we are talking of epilepsy, we are talking of deaf-blind. Those are conditions that border on health issues.
And autism.
Now, do you have a workable data system for persons with disabilities?
Yes, we do have in the council. And one of the key areas we are launching our strategic plan for the 3 years in my leadership. And we have been moving around as a council under the leadership of my predecessor, Dr. Sankok. And we have a data for, actually it's not enough, because right now we are talking about the census in August. And we want actually this to be included as person with disability so that we can know the real number. According to the United Nations, it was projected about to be 4 million Kenyans living with disability. But for us, we actually know that we are about 6 million Kenyans living with disability in this country.
Of which you don't have the records
No,
straight there.
no. Where the problem is, already we have registered quite a number, almost 1.5 million Kenyans with disabilities. And according to the census of 2009, we were 1.3 million. But according to approximation by World Health Organization, is that, or United Nations, is that every population, especially from sub-Saharan countries, 15% of the population are persons with disabilities. That translates to almost 6.5 million. Why are these people not captured? Is because during census, for instance, the questions that we ask, uko na kiweta hapa ndani, you know, people will not answer that one because to them, a disabled person is considered as a curse, as a liability. Now, when you come with a question that demean them even further, you know, kiwete or kisiwi or kipofu are ki is something that is non-living. It's like a kitty, kitanda, and so on. So if you come with a questionnaire that capture the real issue without demeaning that particular person, you will be able to capture them. And we have
but then the question is, how will you improve on this?
We have aligned ourselves with the census of this year. We have put our input there, and they have been captured. They will be asked in a more honorable manner so that we can collect the number of persons with disability as many as possible. And thank God there is the Huduma number. In the Huduma number, it is you to fill, it is you to say if you have a disability and which type of disability, so that we can also categorize for the sake of planning, because the government needs to plan how many people require wheelchairs, how many require white canes, how many require hearing aids, so that we plan properly. Because without that data, then it will be impossible for us to be able to plan in future. And again, this data is important for us politicians, because 6.5 million people with disability is the biggest constituency in this country. With almost 2 million voters.
Those are many voters.
Those are many voters. So for us, and again, for the country also to realize that with 6.5 million people, it is a potential market bigger than Nairobi. 400,000 Kenyans sit on a wheelchair. Actually, economically, they are sitting on a metallic thing that costs 12 billion Kenya shillings.
Now, speaking of money, the budget for the National Council is about 1 or 2 billion there, and 1.8 billion. What has this money done in the past 6 years?
Okay, let me pick up. 1.5 billion is for the cash transfer.
1.2.
1.2, sorry.
The 1.2 is for the cash transfers.
350 million is for development.
What has this money done in the past 5
Okay.
years?
We have actually done a lot of development in our schools, actually to make our school more accessible, more classroom for the schools. I remember there is a time we actually built about 8 classes in Taita Taveta, and actually Mheshimiwa here told me to accompany him to Taita Taveta. 12 classrooms. In Kisumu, school for physically disabled.
You've seen the school?
Yeah, we have gone there and opened those schools. That is one of the things. So coming up to this budget, budget is a limit. Is that let us agree it's limited for all of us because the number has not been captured well for persons with disability. So what I'm intending to do is about awareness, because awareness actually is a challenge for persons with disability. Majority of people will ask you, how can I register as a person with disability? That is a challenge also. When you go to Mashinani and somebody is asking you, I want to be registered as a member of the National Council. So there we have a miss. And that is what I want to deal with it, about the awareness part of it.
Let me categorize the fund. First of all, there is 1.2 billion Kenya shillings, which is specifically for cash transfer for severely disabled persons.
Okay.
And then there is 50 million that is for LPO financing, for ACPO. Those who access government procurement opportunity and are not able to implement, then we have set aside some money to lend them so that they can actually implement the tender, so that they can get profits and repay the loan at 0% interest rate. And then again, 100 million is for persons with albinism. That is given to persons with albinism to buy sunscreen lotion, protective clothing, and also for cancer screening and treatment. Because we know those with albinism are can actually acquire cancer. So there is 100 million for persons with albinism. And then there is 350 million, which is for infrastructure. And I can tell you, without fear of contradiction, that in the 3 years that I was the chairman of National Council for Persons with Disability, we had constructed 127 infrastructure support to various schools, either special schools or integrated schools. Cool. Some of them, I can give you an example, 12 classrooms in Taita Taveta. There are 4 classrooms in in Kisumu, Joy Town, school for the visually impaired. There is Ngala Secondary School for the deaf, which we constructed a whole dormitory and a whole ablution block. So I can give you so much example. There are 147 institutions that have benefited from infrastructure support ranging from 2 million Kenya shillings to 10 million Kenya shillings in my duration as a chairman in those 3 years.
And I would like to quote you.
Yes, you will quote me. And then again, there is also some funds that are set aside, that is around also 50 million for assistive devices, wheelchairs and crutches. And in that time that I was there, we had been able to distribute approximately 1,000 wheelchairs and more than double that number of crutches and other assistive devices like calipers and white canes. So this money is divided according to the need of persons with disabilities.
There was a time that you said, and I quote, "In the past, money meant for the needy ended up in the wrong pockets. However, I am getting rid of corrupt individuals from the disability sector."
And that is in 2016. Go on record. Who are declared as the cleanest state corporation.
Yes, you said this in 2016.
Yes, who are declared as the cleanest state corporation. Because we got rid of every cartel that was in the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. But where the challenge was, is that there are money that are set aside by county government for persons with disability. They end up in individual pockets.
But then
we are not able to.
But so, okay, how far are you in ensuring that persons with disabilities get funds that were set aside for them? You remember there was a report that was done between 2012 and 2014 in 13 counties. Researchers found that the Social Protection Fund, that every person living with disability is supposed to receive 2,000 shillings a month on a monthly basis, which either never reached or was never received or came late.
Okay, let me say this. Now the system we have an automated system for the bank. Already we have 4 banks: KCB, Cooperative, Equity and Family Bank. During that time, only one bank, Post Bank. It was Post Bank which used to do that work. And how the data was actually taken for the caregivers, it was a challenging matter because they didn't take even the telephone number for the caregiver. So the money will come to the bank, and at the end of the day, the money will be returned to. So that money, actually, I remember there is a time when we had a meeting and requested that the Post Bank had around how much? It was around certain amount.
But many people did not receive the money.
Anyway, you know, I think you, over the media, you have seen me fighting this issue because there were money that were meant for severely disabled persons, older persons, and orphans and vulnerable children. But then there were cartels in Nairobi who wanted to control this money. And that is why it was being given manually, issued manually.
Okay.
People will carry money in sacks. It's paid a time. You will actually be forgiven if you mistake that it's a political rally when people are coming to collect this money. Despite the fact that these people are poor, they need some dignity. And that is why, ever since I entered into parliament, we had made sure that we have changed this issue so that it is automated the way Honorable Mishiri have said. Nowadays, the money go to the bank. You can access it using your ATM. You can access it using M-Pesa services. You can access it the way you want as the recipient. You don't have to come and line up.
The choice of your bank?
Yeah, it is you to choose the bank. If the KCB is not serving you well, you can migrate to Post Bank or you can migrate to any other bank. This competition have brought the issue of efficiency in banks so that they can attract more customers.
Can you say that right now this issue of persons with disabilities not receiving their money has been solved?
They have been sorted and solved 100%.
In terms of tenders,
let me deal first, actually say this, still on the cash transfer. Okay, we must accept and agree that finances are never enough. Actually, we have taken a data of a large number of beneficiary, but the funding is limited for us. So we actually take these people on a waiting list. Before we used to have that waiting list, but when a beneficiary actually dies, the report actually didn't reach the National Council. That was a challenge also, but now that has been taken care of. So for us now, we are actually trying, and I will try my best as a leader, of the chairman of the National Council, to talk with our leaders here in Parliament so that we can see how we can raise this amount up to at least 5,000 shillings for a beneficiary.
Yes, and again, we have 47,200 beneficiaries against the need of 300,000 person with severe disability in this country.
Quite
so
interesting.
there are so many
Yeah,
who
it's a
have
challenge.
not,
Interesting.
received. And as you had rightly put it, when they were paying in sacks, when they were paying manually, you know, somebody can migrate because of lack of pastures, especially in the pastoralist community. I went once to Marlal, Samburu, and I met an old man, disabled, who actually had migrated to Ethiopia, but I've come back and he was entitled to 28,000 Kenya shillings. So I checked digitally and I told him, okay, go and pick your 28,000 Kenya shillings. When he went to the paying agent, they gave him 10,000 Kenya shillings.
Right.
So when I told him it is 10,000, you are supposed to get 28,000. He said, no, he person ya bure, my friend. If it is free, let me just go because nasema asante. I told him, no, let us go back. When we went, he had already signed for 28,000 Kenya shillings, but he was only given 10,000. Those are the cartels that we eliminated
Of which
by
now
automating them.
it brings us back to the whole question of persons with disability.
Actually, because ABC, before somebody is wheelchair, media.
Are you going to ensure to get 30%?
So person with disability.
Amen. Explain that aspect
okay.
because now we want to understand it. How?
When the president actually came into power in 2013,
Yes.
he came with this actually law for reservation of 30% for 3 groups:
Yes.
women, youth, and persons with disabilities. And after, let's say, like 10 months down the line, actually, when the record was looked, only 200 companies had registered as persons with disability. Against women, there were 20,000 companies. Youth were about 7,000 companies. So we were forced actually to go back to the Minister of National Treasury, Henry Rotich, and actually talk to him. And there is when he actually circulated a circular at not less than 2% for tenders will go to persons with disabilities. But that is not enough for us now. As a council, we are much aware about this. And what we want to do is to make a public awareness, actually, and we can show our people how they can register companies, how they can do business with government. Even in county governments, we have a problem with county government. They don't give our people jobs. And when our people have been given jobs, they are given in terms of quantity, not quality.
And even there's someone,
Yeah,
once
you know,
they don't
somebody
apply, once they realize that you have a disability, they don't give you the
somebody
job.
is telling you to just to actually to supply toothpick.
How can that
How,
be
yeah,
economically
or
change your
tissue.
life?
Yeah, I
paper,
see.
and newspapers,
And I
and
believe
so on.
as person with disability, we are capable and actually have the capacity even to build roads, even to build buildings. Because I believe,
can do that.
yeah, we can do that. We need those opportunities to our people. That is why under my leadership, I want actually, and I need to be guided, Mheshimiwa, actually with these governors, yeah, in all the 47 counties, asking them for tenders for our people, and actually making sure that we actually come together and partner with the county government and register our people in a certain county.
If there is somewhere that we had a problem,
Yes.
it's actually county government. The national government under the leadership of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta have really tried. Because first of all, this policy is courtesy of the national government. Under Uhuru leadership, it have never been there. They have really tried, and there are a lot of people with disability who have benefited, and they are now big contractors, courtesy of being awarded tenders in the national government. When it comes to the county government, they have formed their own ghost companies that are purport to be person with disability. You get a person with disability on a wheelchair, you give him 10,000 Kenya shillings, register a company using their name or their registering number of National Council for Person with Disability, and then you are awarded tenders. This person with disability is not even aware that there are such tenders that are being awarded under his name.
This is conmanship.
This conmanship, and that is what we are saying. You should not even import into our
Also to add on that, also actually, Rob,
That is a political
no. But it is true because actually because this is an agenda of the Jubilee government. And just allow me in 3 minutes to tell you what have placed us as a country at the apex of disability leadership in the whole of Africa. We are number 1. In the whole of the world, we are number 5. One, I had started by saying that AGPO, access to government procurement opportunity. It is nowhere else in the world. We import vehicle duty free. If you are a person with disability, if you want to buy a V8, 10 million for a person with disability is 5.8 million Kenya shillings. We don't pay taxes. Yes? There is nowhere else in the world where a person with disability don't pay taxes. We access various funds, including National Government Affirmative Action Fund, Uwezo Fund, and other funds that are actually there to target persons with disability.
Okay, to add on actually the 30% procurement. Actually, some of these people, they have become so smart.
You said it's less
and
than
we are much aware.
30%.
We are much aware. As a chairman, I'm much aware.
Yes.
What they do, they look even a child. They go to actually to villages and look for child who has disability, and they register a company through that card.
Quite
You see,
unfortunate.
that is so bad and wrong. So we are much aware of what is happening under the 30% procurement opportunity for our people. And actually, I said I need to be guided by the members of parliament, who Honorable Sankog is one of them. We need the 10% for persons with disability. We don't need the 2%. Why? We are 3 groups, Rob.
And remember, to create awareness, just, for,
Yeah, and again,
for your information, before you comment, KBC
Yes.
is the only station that has a disability program to create awareness for this.
Congratulations about that.
And
KBC.
I can say that God will bless you abundantly, KBC. It is also in KBC that we have this guy called Muyakane,
Victor Muyakane.
Yes, the guy who actually
Yeah,
assisted
he did a good
disabled
job
person.
during the time
the
where
fracas,
bees.
the bees came, and this person with disability on a wheelchair could not have run. He would have been killed by the bees, but he decided to risk his own life to save the life of a person with disability. So KBC have done a lot, apart from being accessible to person with disability, apart from having a program specifically for person with disability. There is no other channel, media group that can really give us that time. They economically now see this time can worth 1 million or so they put advertisement. But KBC have decided to forego that money so that they can let us create awareness to our people. I will also bring a petition to Parliament so that the whole government can bring me a list of all tenders awarded to groups of persons with disability, and then those companies will see who are the directors, who are the signatories of the banks. If then the signatories of the bank have no disability, then of course you are corrupt and it should be dealt with by DCI and also by EACC.
That is quite interesting there. And remember, you can be able to watch Able differently right here on KBC Channel 1. Look out for that program. And if you cannot be able to catch up on what has been happening, you want to follow it up, make sure that you head over to our YouTube channel and just go to KBC TV shows. You can be able to get Able differently. Watch how we are pioneering for persons with disabilities. A big shout out, thanks, appreciation to Victor Muyakane. KBC is a platform where every great journalist comes from.
When I saw that Victor, I almost cried.
Right now, he has left KBC. He has moved forward, but...
To where?
Moving forward.
I'm telling you, when I saw him, I almost cried because I come from a community which consider person with disability as a curse. Birth attendants are given specific instruction to kill them at birth. If you are born with a disability, you are given cholesterol or significant tobacco as the fast food so that they can perforate the intestine, so that you can die. Now here is somebody who is risking their own life to save that particular person with disability. It was amazing.
Thank you very much, Victor Muyakane. And I would like you to be part of this conversation. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter, at KBC Television, at Jane Wambui, at Ram Aguko. In a couple of minutes, we shall be heading over to sample some of your tweets, your comments concerning this. Remember, we appreciate your feedback. Now, 2 weeks ago, something interesting happened. And it involved the Kenya Paralympics team. You're saying, oh. I wish you could go to see what he just did there. But the Kenya Paralympics team that participated in the African Olympic qualifiers in Morocco, they held protests about delayed allowances. It was received 2 days ago, we can say 3 days ago, from the Ministry of Sports, but they are owed their overseas allowances according to the National Paralympic Committee Chair, that is Agnes Olwatch, and nominated Member of Parliament Denita Gatti. And they say they are still owed, their overseas allowances. What is the problem here, and how will you handle such?
Okay, let me say
to avoid future,
that was pathetic, for lack of better word.
That was?
Pathetic, for lack of better word. Because actually, I want to assure the Paralympic team, under my leadership, that will be a thing of the past. Because I believe there is a time last year on 2017 in Brazil, Honorable Sankok, 2016 in Brazil. Actually, we pushed the minister by then, Wario, Minister of Sports. We pushed him actually to the wall, me and Sankok, about the Paralympic team, because when they went to Brazil, they were mistreated. And actually, even a gold a person with disability had won for Kenya, actually it was taken from them. Made because Sankok was there, actually it was returned. So
your efforts were seen.
Yeah, his effort actually was seen.
Yeah,
Yeah, and what I would like to tell my fellow persons with disability in Kenya, I need inclusivity leadership. All persons with disability in all corners of this country, we need to come together, because actually when you look at those scenes which happened at Thika Road, a policeman actually beating a person on a wheelchair.
Quite unfortunate.
That is quite unfortunate.
In broad daylight.
In broad daylight. That is true. So for us, we need to come together, because as Sankok has said, the country is actually the fourth in Africa. We are the first, and the fifth. But when we see this actually scene like this, actually we can't believe that we are there now. So we need to come together, and that is what I'm saying. I'll have a meeting with the Paralympic team. Yesterday I spoke to the chair, Agnes Oluoch, and we are preparing to go to the CS sport, Amina Mohammed. Actually, we can iron out these issues, because we don't want to see again certain issues like those ones.
You know, I don't know if actually the inspector, he was not just a mere policeman.
He was an OSPD.
Globally, a person on a wheelchair. Surely, yani wewe uogopi Mungu, uogopi dhambi. What are you doing? And in this country, the sport for person with disability is placed somewhere else, because we have sporting activity being developed in all the way from primary school for those who are able-bodied. But for person with disability, there is no development of sport from the time that they are in primary school, secondary school, and so on. That's why there is no competition for Paralympic from down in primary school. And again, I went and accompanied the team of Paralympians to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. And when I went there, I was shocked, because we had only 9 athletes. The officials who wanted to benefit from the huge allowances that will be given and travel abroad and get connections were 29 from the Ministry of Sport. None of them with a disability. Now you can imagine you have 9 athletes. The officials are more than the athletes, simply because it attracts huge allowances. They were not even able to bring these athletes to the field on time. That is why Honorable Mushiri was saying were almost denied a gold medal, because they actually delayed. They came when the competition was almost starting.
And even when they win, the goal, is there an appreciative
when they win the gold? When we came back to the country, when the Olympic team came back to the country, they were received with Shangwen and Deremo, with top government officials receiving the Olympians. But when it came to Paralympic, they came quietly. I had to travel 1 day earlier than them, so that I can also be on the airport to receive them, because it was only me to go and receive them. There was no government official who will come and receive them.
And whose failure is that?
The government, of course. The government, of course.
County, national?
National government. This is a national activity. And of course, it's as if we consider a goal from person with disability as if it is a goal also with a disability. And when we win gold medal in Paralympic or any other sport, the flag of Kenya is not raised half-mast. It is raised, the flag of Kenya is raised full mast like any other. And our national anthem is actually sung like any other. It's not that you sing a national anthem with disability when a disabled person wins that goal. And again, from the experience of Paralympic,
national anthem,
and from the experience of the Paralympic, we had 9 athletes. We won 6 medals, 3 golds, 2 bronze, and 1 silver. 6 out of 9.
Wow.
That translates to almost 70%.
Wow.
The one that you say they are able-bodied, there were 8 of them. They only won 13 medals. That translates to almost 14%. Now, who is disabled here? Is it somebody who have won 70%? Or is it somebody? If we had 80 Paralympians, we would have been having 70 goals here in Kenya.
And that is the question.
Rob, let me say this, as actually to what my colleague has said. in this country we don't have a lesser human being. When you look at persons with disability, they want to travel for those competitions, they struggle to get even a ticket. That is a problem.
We will be able to come to that.
Yeah.
Let's head over to social media. My
Okay.
colleague is on the other side of the studio. Jane, what are people saying?
Pull 2 tweets from what we have received so far. The hashtag we are using is hashtag Good Morning Kenya. And there is one Emily who says, I believe this is a quote that she starts with, the more you know about exclusion, the more you think about belonging. As a person with disabilities, I feel excluded every day. No amount of positivity or wishful thinking is going to make the country embrace my difference. But with this kind of leadership, it gives me hope that our country can do more as it tries to be better. And of course, one more right here to, let me just read it as it is. From grace to grace, the Honorable David Ole Sankok did noble moves in the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, and it is up to you, Honorable Peter Shiri, to keep the lamp lit. So already people are looking forward to the kind of leadership you're going to be coming in with. As you saw from Emily saying, as a person living with disability, you never know how the need to belong is until you are excluded. So with this kind of leadership, there is hope. So what do you have to say about that tweet? Mzigo ushaekelewa kwako.
First of all,
They have expectations there.
of course, we appreciate. Of course, these are positive comments because most of them, we know them and they know what we have done so far. But let me tell you, you know where we are being excluded, because I want to go to that exclusion.
Yes.
Imagine last year, the government, led by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, went to Europe for a disaster management conference. And none of those participants was a person with disability. What were they discussing? They were discussing about, in case of any, let's say, fire, you break the glass and then there will be a siren. What about those who cannot hear that siren? In case of any disaster, then there will be an emergency route, which most likely is a staircase. We'll talk on behalf of Peter Shiri, who will not be able to use staircases. In case of, let's say, turbulence in the aeroplane and there is disaster declared in the aeroplane, there is the lighting system that will show you the exit route. We will talk on behalf of that blind person who does not know, who will not be able to see the exit route. We need to be included in even those particular conferences. And worse is that in our own conferences of persons with disability, like now we are going to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability in June, you will realize that all those who will be going there from the Ministry of Labor may be persons without disability. What will they go and discuss about persons with disability? Can we have a women conference only attended by men? Is it possible?
Interesting question there. But I want to address one issue here. The transport system, the public service vehicles there. What are you doing to ensure that they are persons with disability friendly?
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, we have actually embarked in a partnership program with the Gender and Equality Commission and UN Habitat. In fact, on Thursday this week, we are launching the accessibility and mobility. It's a pilot project which will be launched in Nairobi. We are starting with the Nairobi about the transport system. All stakeholders, even NTSA, matatu owners, business community, they will be there, because we need actually to make it better in Nairobi, so that when we get it better from Nairobi, I believe even in other urban cities, it will be actually better.
Member of Parliament Denita Agati had says that there hasn't been a good relationship between the Ministry of Sports and the persons with disabilities.
Actually, I've said that we are preparing to have a meeting with the Minister of Sports, CS Amina Mohammed.
How are you going to correct this?
That is why we need dialogue. We need dialogue to sit together and resonate together. And actually, we can know actually where the rain started beating us between the two ministries, because persons with disability, they will remain to be actually part of that ministry. Even if we don't want, they will remain to be in that ministry as sportsmen. You see what Honorable Sankok has said, that around nine participants in Paralympic, six actually medals. That is commendable.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, on the issue of transport, first of all, it has been our failure. That is why we are actually number 5 in the world. We will have been number 1 in the world, but courtesy of maybe transport, which is in the hand of the private sector. And you know, as a growing economy, as a crawling economy, let me say, we have to balance between putting red tape, kind of structures and scaring away investors. You know, you don't have to scare away investors because they come in our country and invest and employ our youth. So at times we want to be harsh on accessibility. But again, you see, for a 14-seater matatu to be able to have accessibility in terms of wheelchairs, then they have to reduce the number of passengers. So we don't also want to scare away. So we have been trying to balance, and that is why the private sector, which is own the matatu sector, have not been very accessible. Most buildings are not accessible because they are also in the private hands. But thank God, the standard gauge railway is 100% accessible. There is also the rapid bus transport system that will be coming to Nairobi. We have already talked to the Nairobi City, county government. We have talked to the Ministry of Transport. It will be 100% accessible to persons with disability. And with time, we'll also give incentive to all those matatu circles that will preserve at least 10% of their fleet to be accessible to persons with disability.
Actually, to add on that, I actually invite you to that program, that accessibility and mobility program.
When is it?
It's on Thursday in the morning. We are starting at Hilton Hotel. Okay. We have a procession there with all the stakeholders. This is a very important, actually, project for our people because we need accessible buildings, we need accessible roads. Have you ever think about person with visual impairment crossing a road? Think about that. So we need at least even traffic lights where we can have a button and the lights will change to red and the vehicle will stop and then that person can cross. So some of these things we need to discuss and come together as a country. And now I'm actually happy because UN Habitat has come actually to facilitate this program as a pilot project in Nairobi.
And there's a problem here that, as you've talked about the traffic lights and persons with disability trying to cross the road, it brought in another aspect of the street families, street children. Some of them are persons with disabilities.
But let me tell you, these street families and these beggars in our streets with disability, most of them are actually intruders from other countries. They have actually seen the atmosphere that we have created to persons with disability, the advocacy that we have done to persons with disability, including the president being one of the leaders in advocacy for persons with disability. In 2016, he recognized me as a hero, courtesy of overcoming challenges that come with disability. That is actually recognizing the 6 million Kenyans with disability, that they have challenges that they have to overcome in their day-to-day life. So he's actually, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is actually an advocate to persons with disability. Courtesy of that atmosphere, friendly atmosphere to persons with disability, and also Kenyans being very generous people, we have had influx of refugees with disability begging in our streets. Because there was a time that I had to go all the way to most of the streets and meet persons with disability on the street begging and inquire about their origin, if they have a national identity card, so that we can assist them, so that we can get them out of the streets. It was impossible because we cannot use taxpayers' money of Kenya to then give residents of Tanzania that money. And it's also very difficult for us to deport a person on a wheelchair. You know, it's a bit difficult. So for those street families, for those persons with disability on the street, most of them actually don't belong to this country. But what Peter Mushiri was saying,
you've taken the statistics.
We have done the
you
research.
have the data.
In fact, there was one Safaricom lady who served a person with disability while kneeling down because this person with disability crawled into the Safaricom shop. I had to go and say, why did that person with disability crawl to the Safaricom shop without a wheelchair? But on inquiring, he was from Tanzania. The records are there. It's all over the media. But in terms of accessibility, in these media houses, there is sign language interpreters. It is during our time that sign language interpreter become mandatory in all our news bulletins. Again, sign language is now the third official language in Kenya, which is being taught even from primary school to secondary school. So there is a lot of achievement in terms of accessibility. We have seen talking lifts in our buildings because there is somebody else who is visually impaired. We may not see that we are in floor 10 or 5, but there is a talking lift instructing them where we are. So actually, as a country, I can say we are not there, but we have made great strides.
Still to add on that, actually we are so grateful to our government because of the Huduma number and what Mheshimiwa is talking about. At least we can know the real Kenyans who are here. And that is why the government is coming with this Huduma number, so that it can know actually when the resources are there, at least the government can consider on a certain amount of resources which can be distributed to these people. So for us as a National Council for Persons with Disability, and my colleagues here in Parliament and Senate, I'll have to have like stockholders meeting. We sit together, and actually we can talk about these issues.
Article 55 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 requires that the state to take measures, including affirmative action.
Article 54, not
54.
I've said
55, but it says
Oh,
Article
54. Yes, 54, sorry. Article 54 of the Constitution of Kenya requires that the state to take measures, including affirmative action programs, to ensure that youth, persons with disabilities, minorities, and marginalized groups have access to relevant education and training, opportunities to associate, be represented, and participate in political, social, economic, and other spheres of life, access employment, and to be protected from harmful cultural practices and exploitations. You agree with that?
First
right?
of all,
Yes.
I'm sorry. It is actually Article 55. I thought you were reading Article 54. In Article 54, it is specific to person with disability. But Article 55 is actually general for person with disability, youth and marginalized community. But we agree on this. And already the government have implemented so many programs that to make sure that persons with disability are not discriminated in terms of education. That is why we have bursary kitty that are specifically for persons with disability in the National Council for Persons with Disability, in National Government Affirmative Action Fund. And that is why we are actually gearing towards integrated system of education. Long time ago, we used to have special schools. And when we have special schools, you find that persons with disability are actually secluded. But now we are having integrated school where persons with disability are integrated with other people who are not with disability, so that they can learn to live together at an early age, because that is the only time we can now eliminate stigma.
All right. What are your comments on this, especially in implementing this article of the Constitution, Article 55?
Okay. Actually, implementing this article of the Constitution, one of these the key areas is about disability mainstreaming. Disability mainstreaming is a key issue to our people, because disability. Sorry.
Yes.
Disability mainstreaming is a key issue actually in this for the National Council, and it's a mandate for the National Council. Look at the accessibility part of it. Accessibility is a law now, but persons with disability actually, as a council, we need to come up very clear and make sure that all buildings which are actually being built, they are very accessible to persons with disability. And actually, I recommend Honorable Governor Mutua. Last year he said that he has given a notice of 3 months that all buildings which are not accessible to persons with disability, they will be demolished. So this is a key area for our people.
Meaning at some point, which is contrary to what you had said, the county government is trying to help.
Yeah.
Some counties.
We have not said all counties.
Some, yeah.
But generally,
yeah.
if there is only one, like for instance, the governor's office of Kisumu is actually in 9th floor, and there is no lift. A person with disability tried to crawl there. He crawled to 5th floor. He was not able to continue any further. He had to crawl down. But let me tell you, let me tell you, my brother, in terms of this accessibility, there is a performance contract indicator in every ministry, department, and agency of the government that must be disability friendly. So for you to get marks in performance contract mainstreaming in any ministry, in any department of government, you must mainstream the issue of disability. Again, we decided to internalize the issue of mainstreaming. That is why there is a whole unit in training of our architects, our civil engineers that deal with disability mainstreaming, especially accessibility. Now, it is a whole unit in all our universities and colleges that train engineers and civil engineers and architects, so that we can internalize, so that the engineer who will be building your house, the architecture will be making drawings for your house, or your building, will actually advise you. That is very important, because everybody is a potential candidate to disability. Even old age, you will become almost disabled. So it's good to make your building accessible, so that in eventuality of you becoming disabled, you can also access. And also you can also have customers with disability. You can have tenants who are with disability.
Even visitors.
Because 6 million Kenyans is not a very small population.
We
to be
need to
ignored.
look at how we build our houses. And as we wrap things up, maybe I would like to give you, because now as the current chair, to speak to the Kenyans there, to say a final word, speak to the persons with disabilities and pass a message outside there.
Okay. My brothers and sisters with disability in Kenya, I'm your new chairman for the National Council for Persons with Disability. Indeed, it's my great pleasure to His Excellency the President for actually bestowing me to this huge responsibility to lead this actually special group. For me, my leadership will be all inclusive, and I will make sure that those laws, international laws and local laws, are actually implemented under my leadership. I will urge you, my brothers and sisters, we work together, hold my hands. I'm ready to be guided by you guys. Let's work as brothers and sisters so that we can achieve more. Thank you so much. May God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mheshimiwa, you can have a final word. And just as by the way, some people may be complaining that you're getting into politics too much.
What is my job description, my friend? I'm a politician.
He's a politician.
Nilikuja Nairobi kuchunga ngamia. Nilikuja Nairobi kufanya siasa. Na hiyo siasa ndio nitaandika because my job description as a politician. By the way, nowadays you are unatangaza sana. So what you reduce?
That is what
when
description.
that's your job description. So actually I have to. What I want to tell
I have
Kenya.
a final word within just a couple of seconds.
Yes, let us unite as a country. Let us know that everybody of us belong to this country. Nobody applied to be in this country. Even if you may not like the captain of the ship, which is called Kenya, you may not like the president, but if you prick a hole in this ship, we'll all sink. We have to love this country and to be together in this country. And I also urge the people of the fourth estate nowadays to introduce these patriotic songs so that the country can also come together in the spirit of handshake, and they can also be patriotic, because you guys have eliminated any patriotic song nowadays. You know, a long time ago I used to hear from my radio, Tushangilie Kenya taifa letu. But nowadays what I hear, I no longer hear using my ears. I hear from the vibration from my stomach. And again, the sound that come out is kamati ya chini, who is being kamated here? You know, this sound a bit immoral and not very good. So let us have also patriotic songs in our media houses.
And Mheshimiwa is a patriotic person. You see, he always in green with a flag.
Thank you very much, honorable members, for joining me this morning in the studio. Remember, that song that you just sang was, you used to listen to that song at KBC.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
When it was called Voice of Kenya.
Voice of Kenya.
Yes.
And to every person who is watching outside there, remember, this is the only TV station, the only media house that plays content that has a disability program. You can be able to get this program called Abled Differently that airs on KBC Channel 1. It is specifically meant to, put focus on the persons with disabilities, what they go through and how they've managed to beat the odds and succeed in what they want in life, their dreams, their goals, their aspirations. Make sure that you head over to our YouTube channel and check out Able Differently, a very fantastic program produced by one of the best producers within KBC, best directors and even presenters. Able Differently, program specifically for persons with disabilities. I was joined this morning by Honorable David Ole Sankok, nominated Member of Parliament, Honorable Peter Mushiri, Chairman of the National Council of Persons with Disability, also known as Peter Shiri, and Mheshimiwa Sankok, also known as Nominee 001. I welcome you again. We shall have this discussion even in future.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, let's head over to traffic updates. Doreen Arangre is on the other side of studio. So Doreen, tell us, what are we having? What is the status of the road so far as of now?
Right there concerning just persons with disabilities and how they are right society. All right about now we want to take a look at what is happening in our roads. Remember, if you don't do this on location, we get to do it on studio just to ensure that you're up.
Thank you so much.
Roads here in the city. Right about now, I want us to take a look at what is happening along Mombasa Road. We'll also be checking what will be happening along Juja Road, Jogoo Road, Outer Ring Road, and also all the way to Thika Road. Just to give you a snippet of what is